Just to confirm, everyone's here for the master class and eliminating the top 7 restroom pain points. We are going to have a live chat at the end where we'll answer all your questions. On the bottom left hand of your screen, you'll see a chat box section. So just enter your questions there and we'll answer them at the end. This will be recorded and they will get a video recording at the end of this presentation and a guide to our solutions for your restroom pain points that will be sent to your email inboxes early next week. So with that, I'll just hand that over to Bruce now.
Thank you very much, Lindsay, and thank you everyone for taking time of your day and for your patience today. I apologize again for some of the technical difficulties that we've been having. So with no further ado, we'll get things going and start talking about some of these pain points. When was the last time you were unimpressed by a public restroom? I can bet that the latter question of when you were unimpressed by a public restroom stands out more than the last time you were impressed by a restroom. Why is that? Let's look at a couple of statistics here. Understanding, you expect clean restrooms, your patrons also expect clean restrooms as well too. 56% of customers won't return to a business if it has a dirty restroom. Right? Think of your last restaurant experience. 85% of people would avoid a business with negative online reviews regarding cleanliness. How many people do you know and how often do you use online reviews before you're going to visit an establishment? 50% of people who encounter a dirty restroom would discuss it with friends and family, or worse, post it on social media, that whole thing that may catch on someday. And nearly 70% of customers believe an unclean restroom indicates poor management and lowers their opinion of the company. The bottom line, right, restrooms can make or break a business, without question. So I'm going to turn things over to JJ, who is going to start taking us through the 7 restroom pain points.
Thanks, Bruce. I'm going to basically go through the top 7 restroom pain points that we're going to discuss through the presentation. The first being supply issues, the second being cleaning complaints, third, health and safety, fourth, staff training, fifth, cleaning logs, theft and vandalism will be covered next, and finally, customer perception of restrooms. So let's start right into the first pain point, supply issues. There's nothing worse than running out of restroom supplies when they're needed most. Usually you run into the stall to get things done, and you don't have the supplies required to finish the job. So here's how to avoid it. So you want to deal with those supply issues by making sure that empty dispensers, which account for almost all the complaints received by facility managers, are dealt with. The difficulty is in keeping up with restroom supply use, toilet paper, paper towel, soap, etc. Excessive supply use is driving your supply and your labor costs. So the things to do to address that: you want to make sure that you assess the cleaning frequency to determine how often supplies actually need to be filled. You want to install dispensing systems that reduce supply use. High capacity dispensers that need to be refilled less frequently. Control dispensing formats for paper towel, soap, etc. Consider using automated dispensers, which Bruce will discuss a little bit later. You want to meet regularly with your rep to make sure that you stay on top of any technology that may assist you in keeping your complaints at a minimum because of dispenser issues. The next pain point, cleaning complaints. Nothing ruins the customer experience faster than a dirty restroom. Anecdotally, I was recently told of a mother that used to go into restaurants, check out the restroom before she would allow her family to sit down and eat. So on that mantra, let's go forward and see how to minimize cleaning complaints. The complaints are often a result of inefficient resource allocation. Low traffic restrooms are often serviced just as frequently as high traffic restrooms, but the complaints can be minimized by tailoring the cleaning schedules to fit traffic patterns. You want to make sure that your staff are properly trained to efficiently and effectively deliver on their process. You want to make sure that cleaning complaints are properly addressed. You want to offer patrons a way to provide and receive feedback. You want to respond to those specific complaints so they know that their concerns are being taken seriously and have been actioned. You want to make sure that whatever restroom management system you're using allows your patrons to notify staff and management of cleaning issues in real time. Go ahead, Bruce.
One of the best ways to avoid cleaning complaints is to follow a consistent cleaning protocol. follow a consistent cleaning protocol, very importantly, have a consistent, have a good protocol and SOPs established. Consistent cleaning processes can maximize efficiency and quality and definitely outcomes and improve that customer experience. So we implement step-by-step cleaning processes to ensure consistent cleaning quality. We spray down, and while there's 8 points here, these are high-level summaries. There might be a number of additional points that depending on what's in your restroom and your environment and your protocols. But in general, you're going to spray down or wipe down all surfaces, right, with the recommended disinfectants, sinks, countertops, toilets, etc. We're going to use effective cleaning tools, effective cleaning cloths, not rags, cleaning cloths such as microfibers, folded, using all sides of clean surface and replacing the cloth as required as it becomes soiled. We're going to remove and replace sanitary napkin bags. We're going to apply disinfectant solution in the canister if it happens to be a protocol right before replacing the bag. We clean our mirrors, our glass, with glass cleaner, and we wipe, clean countertops and sinks, wipe them dry as well too. Remember, very importantly, we want to spend time on our toilets. It's extremely important that our toilets are clean, effectively maintained, and so scrubbing the inside of toilets, the urinals, and very importantly, the exterior and the base of the toilets, which can become extremely soiled as they tend to be catch areas for what's called an overspray. We want to restock supplies, very importantly, restocking supplies properly and making sure that we are gauging correctly what we feel will be the amount of supplies that will be required until the next restroom service is going to take place. And last but not least, sweep and mop floors and place wet floor sides at the entrance as required. And very importantly as well too, is everything working? Our cleaning staff tend to be the ones that visit the washrooms most frequently. They are our eyes and ears of our operation, of our building. Make sure that they are regularly checking and reporting back any sort of deficiency, whether it be a dispenser, whether it be a tap not working, or whatever the case may be. Pain point number 3, health and safety. And when we think about health and safety, importantly, that we think about health and safety not just for the patrons, but also for our staff as well too. Very important throughout the facility, but even more so important in the restrooms themselves. So what is cleaning for health and safety? Right? We can easily promote a step-by-step cleaning process to ensure, you can easily promote health and safety in restrooms, right, with the right cleaning chemicals. And when you think of health and safety too, it's important that we do think about it in 2 fashions. We think about it both from the physical perspective, say slips and falls, right, hazards that might affect us physically, right, and then we need to think about it as well from an infection prevention and control standpoint as well too. Looking that we're always trying to minimize the risk of any sort of bacterial transmission or spread of infection right throughout our facilities. So we need to first and foremost ensure we're using the right products for the job, the right tools, and as discussed before, using effective tools and making sure our staff are armed with the right tools. You have to understand and remember that cleaning is the second most important thing that we can do to prevent the spread of infection. Right, so make sure that our staff are well armed, right, to be able to achieve the outcomes that we desire. Always need to make sure our staff are reading and following product labels, right, SES, and understanding any hazards that exist in relation to the chemicals, and very importantly, they are properly trained. We use only registered disinfectants or approved products, making sure that we don't have products that are coming in from the outside. How often have you visited a housekeeping closet in your environment and seen a specific product that a specific housekeeper loves because they use it at home? Making sure that sort of stuff doesn't happen as well too. Right. We need to make sure we're allowing for the proper product dwell time, contact time to effectively kill. Different products require different levels of contact time in order to achieve the results that we're trying to achieve. Again, using our correct cleaning tools and processes. Right? Do not reuse the same cloth for every job. Do not take the cloth from area to area. Definitely do not take cloths from the washroom to anywhere else in the environment. Again, a lot of this stuff is centered around effective and proper training for our staff as well too. And consider, technology. Always staying in touch with technology. Consider the use of electrostatic disinfecting, especially maybe at higher points in the season when flu is more prevalent and organisms can be more invasive to us. From a physical perspective, we want to minimize the risk of slips and falls. Right? Falls and tripping incidents obviously are a significant issue in washrooms where substantial amounts of water tend to be present. Water gets on the floor. Right? We need to make sure we're cleaning up spills right away or as soon as we do know about them. And very importantly as well, too, keeping floors free of tripping hazards. I don't know if anybody out there has ever stepped on a paper towel on the floor before, but it is a slip hazard as well too. Pain point number 4, staff training. We always have to remember, 90% of every dollar we spend on maintenance is spent on labor. Maximizing efficiency is critical. Right, so why is staff training an issue? Right, so staff turnover among cleaners is usually high, as we know, and cleaning companies end up spending a lot of time training new people. There are 2 sides to this. There's a safety issue and there's a health issue. Right, from the safety issue, proper training is crucial to ensuring our staff are knowledgeable about how to use the products, how to use the chemicals, how to store them, very importantly, how to protect themselves, and even more importantly, how to protect restroom patrons from exposure. Right? From a health issue standpoint, incorrect cleaning puts patrons and the facilities at risk of bacteria transmission, right, slips and falls, and tripping incidences. Think of a cleaning cloth being used to clean a toilet when you clean contact points throughout an office environment, right, and the hazards that potentially exist on that. Training best practices, right? Train on standard cleaning process to ensure safety and quality. Backing up a little bit to that, very importantly, we have the processes in place, we have the procedures documented, and we have excellent SOP, standard operating procedures, and standard cleaning procedures in place that we do train and measure against. Provide specific training on how to use specialized equipment and any hazardous chemicals that might be used, which we've touched on before, as well as any equipment, and not even just specialized equipment. We're using a cleaning cloth. How do we use this effectively and properly? There are techniques around that that are extremely important as well. And use standard training programs to ensure training consistency, efficiency, and cost control. Payment point number 5, cleaning logs. Right? Cleaning logs track cleaning tasks and when they were completed, right? They also help to improve our customer perception, which is critically important. You know, I always laugh when I use this term, right, or use this phrase, right? But it's all about the customer experience in our restrooms and ensuring they have a good customer experience, right? And different things that we do can help with that perception. And while a paper-based cleaning log, right, is, I guess, let's call it maybe a little bit antiquated, still used in many cases where we don't have another option, it is at least something that does tell our patrons and our customers that we are concerned about the restroom experience and that we are monitoring and making sure that we are, you know, achieving outcomes that they're going to be happy with. Some of the challenges though with paper-based log systems to keep in mind, right, is log sheets can take up a lot of space. You know, where do we put them? As well as when we try to collect these and keep these. And one of the reasons we keep logs is potentially for liability claims, for falls and stuff, so we can show we were in the restroom. How do we file this? How do we manage this? How do we keep these in a place that's easily accessible? I don't know how many times I've gone into a housekeeping manager's office and seeing these log sheets all over the office in different places. They are very tough to manage from that standpoint. Right? The data has limited usefulness, right? Especially if it's not fully complete. Right? It can be, as discussed, be difficult to retrieve years later to be required. And the system relies on staff with compliance, like most systems do, but with little incentive for reinforcement. Little tip is, if you are using a paper-based log system, right, you know, collect the completed sheets daily and scan and store them digitally and store them by, you know, with the name of the washroom and the date that the sheet was collected for easy reference in the future if you need to use it. I'm going to turn things over to JT, who's going to take you through pain point number 6 and 7.
Thanks, Bruce. Theft and vandalism. Even if all other aspects of your restroom management plan are in place, everyone is subject to theft and vandalism. It's an unfortunate fact of life for building service contractors, property managers, and building owners. And here's how best to handle it. Handling theft and vandalism in your restrooms is a costly problem that results in damaged equipment and missing supplies. We want to make sure that dispensers are tamper resistant, that we use high capacity dispensers, as we've talked about quite a bit already, with large rolls. Install flush-free valves on the sinks and taps and paper towel dispensers so that there's less things to be damaged or vandalized. We want to make sure that screens on urinals are in place to prevent small items from being flushed down. And we want to schedule midday and regular cleaning to help identify issues sooner and deter thieves or vandals from actually executing on their plan to harm your restroom. So some of the things we don't want to do, we don't want to leave extra supplies out. Again, this is simply something that would be addressing the improper dispenser, so that it's easily addressed. You don't want to leave restrooms unattended for long periods of times, especially in higher risk environments. Pain point number 7, customer perception. Customers look at entranceways and restrooms as indicators of facility hygiene when they enter any business. Customer perception matters more than you might think. A customer's perception of a business's restroom makes a big impact on their perception of the company as a whole. A bad first impression will make a customer's first experience often their last. Customers tell 9 people about a good experience and tell 20 people about a bad one. If it takes 12 positive customer experiences to make up the 1 negative customer experiences, you can imagine what just having an hour or 2 hours of inappropriate restroom can do to your business's perception. Positive reviews generate genuine trust among potential customers. In the Bradley Corporation's 27-hand survey, they identified a number of areas, including odors, clogged toilets, toilet paper dispensers, overall old and dirty or unkempt perceptions of the bathroom, and paper towel dispensers as being the primary frustrations in public restrooms. So, we're going to turn it over to Bruce.
What can you do about it? You know what, I like this comment, aim for restrooms that wow. I remember one of the first times I went into I remember years ago, restrooms in restaurants weren't a high priority. And the first time I went into a restroom for a restaurant chain that I won't mention, that had redesigned their restrooms for that wow restroom experience, and it was like wow. I mean, that's what we're looking for. Again, it's so important, that perception to our customers. You know, and not just from a visual standpoint, and the visual is so important because that's what our customers see, but from the health of our customers and the people that come to our facility as well too, critically important. Right? So little things that make a big difference and a big impact on improving our customer experience. One of the things is eliminate odors. And the very first and foremost thing for eliminating odors is get rid of the source. Right? We need to make sure we're cleaning properly. We're getting into the nooks and crannies. We're getting to the sides of our urinal dividers, or whatever the case is, where we're getting collection of soil that can cause odors. Secondly, right, ensure restrooms have proper air circulation. Sometimes that is out of our control, but wherever possible, if we are having circulation issues and we're not getting them on air exchanges we need to in the restroom, it's important that is addressed from a maintenance perspective in your facilities. Right? Installing air freshening system, I always say this with caution. There are different systems available that are more fragrance-free that will also counteract odors as opposed to just masking them. You always want to try to counteract and destroy things, or destroy odors, as opposed to just counteracting them and trying to mask them and cover them up. But be very careful about fragrances these days. There are a lot of environmental sensitivities to fragrances. But in some cases, we may need to find some sort of system that helps us to manage it, especially if we are not able to fix an HVAC system with circulation. Privacy. Well, I think of this as simple as, you know, when you go to washroom, it is a private experience, right? You use partitions right between your urinals. If you don't have them, this will improve the perception of your washrooms considerably. Can you trust me on that one? Right? Consider installing stalls with floor-to-ceiling doors. Again, people like that privacy. And you know, think about when you go into a washroom and you see something that you really like. How can you take that back to your environment as well? Something that makes you feel comfortable, so you are getting that excellent washroom experience. Okay. Go the extra mile. Provide hand lotion in the washroom. Hand lotion is an important part of a hand hygiene program. People wash their hands. A lot of times they want hand lotion. If it's available, it will improve that experience, and provide sanitizer in the restrooms, or at least outside the restrooms, so people have that ability to use sanitizer as well, if it is their desire. And use touch-free systems, and I'm going to stress this, use touch-free systems that actually work. I was just, we were talking about this morning, and I can't count how many washrooms in the last couple of days I was in where I couldn't get the water working easily, where I couldn't get the dispenser to dispense the towel. I helped a gentleman the other day who couldn't figure out how to get this towel dispenser because there was no instruction on how to get the towel out of it. Right? Make sure that the systems that you put in place are good quality, effective systems. It will just increase frustration if they're not there. Looking for some innovative ways to really stand out? I know the answer is yes to that, right? Right? We use technology to make the right impression. And we can take a look at things like digital restroom maintenance systems or connected restroom technology to help us with this. You know, case studies show that restroom management systems improve the perception. Again, we're doing something for you, customer, to ensure you have that good experience. Edmonton International Airport was a prime example of that. They installed digital monitoring systems outside of airport restroom entrances. They compared restrooms with the units identical to restrooms without the units. What they found was that the restrooms, and in addition to that, they made sure they maintained the restrooms the same, right? Same level of cleanliness, same level of attention. What they found, the study found, was that the restrooms with the digital restroom management systems were perceived as 75% cleaner than identical restrooms with the system without the system in place. Think of next generation digital restroom monitoring, right? Touchscreen interfaces, connected devices, IoT, Internet of Things, taking the Internet of Things to our washrooms. Who would have thought we want technology like that in our washrooms? It does exist today, and it is available today to provide really robust back-end data analytics, so we can really take a proactive, a strategic approach to our restroom management programs that we have. You know, we have the customer interface side of it. This is that perception. Patrons report service needs. They're able to report cleaning requirements. They're able to report supply replenishment needs. And they're able to potentially report satisfaction levels as well too. This is all data that we collect at the same time. Cleaning staff report cleaning activities and consumable replenishment. Very importantly, we can proactively have stocking programs for replenishment that can be generated by these systems. So for helping us to place our orders and not run out of products as well too. And again, this is all data that we're collecting. Traffic counters, I think traffic counters are a real key. As we start to collect analytics and start to collect information on, you know, how often we're cleaning the washrooms, and how often we're getting potential complaints or potential requests for service, if we can match that to the traffic to the washroom, it really provides us with excellent heat maps and the ability to be able to strategically approach our cleaning of our restrooms. JJ mentioned earlier how sometimes low traffic restrooms are cleaned at the same frequency as high traffic restrooms. This can help us to gauge when we need to be where. Right? At the same time, you take a look at you know, a heat map of a restroom, and a restroom that you police every hour or every 2 hours you're in to clean, that you find once you start to track the traffic, that there's a 6-hour span where there's almost nobody using that restroom. Do you need to be there at that time, or do you need to reallocate that to be there more when there's more traffic? And then, with all this data we get, management can use these dashboards, right, and detailed data to analyze the efficiency and quality and take proactive steps to optimize the cleaning program. So ask yourself, how do your restrooms measure up? Great question to ask, great thing to look at, great thing to review. Just in summary, keeping your restrooms looking their best, you know, increasing efficiency, you know, and you know, we can talk about all the different systems and things we can put in place, and many times we can increase efficiency and we can lower cost at the same time that we're impressing our guests better, and we're providing that better washroom experience, right, with a best practice approach. Right? So very importantly, right, be proactive in investigating, looking for new technologies, looking for ways to solve your cleaning issues, ways to solve the pain points that you continually are getting as complaints from your restrooms. Follow consistent processes, and backing up again, have consistent processes and procedures established and set up, and follow them consistently. Provide ongoing training. You know what? The second most important thing we can do to prevent the spread of infection is clean. Our washrooms are a potential pain point, definitely, for contributing to the spread of infections to our facility if our staff are not properly trained on correct procedure and processes. 80% of cleaning is process, 20% is chemicals. It doesn't matter what we're using. If the cloth goes from the toilet to the door handle in somebody's office, right, it's going to have a negative impact. Select and use the right tools, good quality, effective cleaning tools for our staff to use, and leverage innovative products and technology, and stay on top of innovative products and technology as they come available, and lean on your manufacturer and vendor partners for that.
Well, thank you, JJ and Bruce, for sharing your expertise on solving our most common restroom problems. And now we're going to open up to our live chat. So if you haven't had a chance to already do so, please enter your questions into the chat box on the bottom left of your screen, and we'll answer your questions there. So on to our first question. How often should restrooms be cleaned?
All right, I'll take that one. So this really depends on the traffic pattern that you have in your facility, as well as a number of factors that would enter in. Sometimes it's regulated for best practice, as well as exactly what the makeup and the equipment that's in that restroom is. So the answer is it depends, but you want to make sure that basically at no point does the restroom go unattended for more than 4 to 5 hours at a time.
Great, thank you. And now the next one, do you have any tips on reducing staff turnover for cleaners?
Certainly. So in reducing the staff turnover, you basically want to make sure that within the area demographic that you're looking at, obviously your market rates on wages are correct. But beyond that, you want to make sure that, and this goes for any of the cleaning in your facility, that you have very engaged people in the work that they do. There's often a misperception that cleaning the restroom is something that is, looked upon or frowned upon as a degrading task. It is not. We want to make sure that our cleaners understand when they go into that restroom that they're doing one of the primary things that's going to increase the public perception of the business and just how important that is. We make them feel important about doing the work, even if people feel that the work is not as important. They need to feel important about it and understand it.
Great, thank you. Can you share the digital restroom survey that was referred to and which system was used? Bruce, did you want to handle that?
Absolutely. It was the Edmonton Airport, I think they're referring to.
Yes.
Was the study that we referred to was the Edmonton Airport, and the system that was used was Wanda Next. There's also a study at the University of Alberta that was done as well too, which does offer some backup to that, which we can provide. My apologies. So there you go. The study was done by the University of Alberta at the Edmonton Airport, right, to see how the restroom technology, how that connected restroom technology and digital monitoring had that effect. And again, too, the system was the Wanda Next system that was utilized, right, which is available through Bunzel.
And the next question here, the cloth folding method, the 8 sides, do you feel that the sides need to be changed for each item washed or only when soiled?
All right, excellent question. Excellent question. So when you think about infection prevention control and you think about cleaning, it's about reducing the risk. Right? So how frequently do I change my cloths? How frequently do I fold and do I flip and do I change sides on my cloth? And I would say as frequently as the efficiencies will allow you to do as you go from area to area. So just think about if I wipe one surface and I wipe an area of my washroom in say a sink area or a toilet area or one toilet with one side of the cloth, what have I collected on that cloth? Right? Obviously I've collected a lot of not wanteds. Right, probably on that cloth, and then I take that cloth, and however much if we're using microfiber are great at holding on to the soil and the organisms that they collect, we can still redeposit. And I take that cloth and I continue to use it and use that same surface from area to area to area. What is the potential risk that I am going to continue to spread, or potentially spread organism? Whereas if I flip and fold frequently, as we say, and the cleaning cloth is the most effective tool that a housekeeper uses, right, to prevent the spread of infection to an environment. Don't skimp on the cloths, right? Don't skimp on the flip and folds. Make sure they have adequate cloths to be able to change whenever they need to, and however frequently that they can afford to be able to do that.
Great, thanks, Bruce. Next question, how do restroom monitoring systems use the Internet of Things?
Excellent question. A very good question. So the Internet of Things, how do we use? Well, first off, what in a washroom is connected to the Internet of Things? Well, think about it. We have a people counter connected to the Internet of Things, right? It tracks traffic for us. We have washer dispensers that are starting to become connected to the Internet of Things, right? To allow us to understand, or to allow us to know, without manual intervention from staff, when we replace product, when product is empty. Right? So how does that work for us? Well, we collect that data. Two things it does is, the Internet of Things in the washrooms allows us to collect data to, again, proactively and very strategically using analytics determine the frequencies that we should be in washrooms, our cleaning schedules, right? Helping us to improve our efficiencies. And as more and more items like the dispensers and such in our buildings become connected, it's going to allow us to very proactively do a couple of things. Proactively be ahead of the curve and not run out of product, be there before we run out of product. It's going to identify if we do run out of product before somebody complains about it or has a complaint about it. And very importantly, it is going to actually assist us from a standpoint of even streamlining our ordering processes to allow us to figure out and to notify us when we need to order product, because we're going to know exactly how much product is used. In addition to each washroom, you're going to know how much product is used as well too, and be able to benchmark and look for waste, look for facts. And extremely important, it's going to help us to identify cleaning staff training issues, right? When we're having challenges and when we see where there are staff that do require maybe additional assistance in understanding what their responsibilities are and what the processes and procedures are to ensure those good outcomes.
Great, thanks Bruce. So what's your thoughts on APT testing in washrooms and how often?
Right, so ATP testing, adenosine triphosphate. I won't try and spell it. Basically, without getting into the nuts and bolts of what ATP testing is, it's essentially a way that you can pick up and look at the amount of the energy molecules, so how many living things are on a surface. How do I feel about testing in that area? I've been involved in ATP in Canada pretty much since we began using it in the environmental services game. It is very easy and quick to use. It can be relatively expensive if you overuse it. However, that being said, the results can be very, very intuitive, but they can be also easily misinterpreted. So if you're going to engage in adenosine triphosphate or ATP testing in your washrooms, you want to make sure that you consult with the manufacturer of the ATP units and microbiologists to make sure that your results are actually telling you what you're looking for. Certainly if you're testing after an area has been cleaned and relatively untouched, the results are much more substantive than if you go in and test midway through the day. If you test, an hour or 2 hours between cleaning and your ATP swabs and your relative light units or the RLU measurement that's given is very high, it's just telling you that people have deposited a lot of living things on the surfaces by touching them. So you want to make sure that you have a robust, intuitive auditing system. But as far as ATP results go, you want to make sure that your process for auditing with ATP is scientifically based and substantive, and it's giving you good information. Because anybody can break out an ATP swab, walk into a room that hasn't been cleaned in some time, swab a surface, and get feedback that the room has been touched and it's dirty. You didn't need ATP to tell you that. You knew how long you'd gone in between your cleaning process. So certainly discuss with the manufacturer and the microbiologist that they employ as to how best to use ATP in your washroom auditing.
Thank you, JJ, for explaining that to us. Next question here. What are the pros and cons of using automatic technology in restrooms?
So it's centered around, I believe the question would be centered around using technologies such as touch-free systems and such, right? And I guess that's some of the advantages of using that sort of automatic technology is one is touch-free, the perception of our clients, right? How many times again, think of yourself going into a washroom. Do you want to touch anything in that washroom? Well, your clients and customers don't want to touch anything in that wash either. So it does provide us with that good perception of that touch-free. It can be effective in helping us to prevent contaminants coming from the washrooms anywhere else in the environment as well too, because our patrons are touching less surfaces. Okay? Image, overall image as well, right? That we are being proactive. We do care about that experience, very important. And it can provide some cost control as well too, and some environmental benefits as well too. When we look at taps, for example, that are automatic and they shut off automatically, people don't leave them running for extended long periods of time. We use less water. Cost effective in paper towel dispensers, and we control the amount of product that's dispensed so it's not free flowing. Right? From a cleaning perspective, keeping tabs and towels and pieces of towels off the floor and such as well. These are all advantages and benefits that we can have. What are some of the disadvantages? You have to think about when they don't work, right? Or if we aren't careful to make sure that we are putting good systems in place that consistently work. We can have batteries that can be an issue as well too, and batteries become a big issue. If it's a system that is hard to use, right, that can be an issue as well too. It needs to be easy, needs to be simple, right? Make sure, again, I go back to this experience I had just yesterday trying to help a gentleman figure out how to get towel out of a towel dispenser, right? Not all of us work in this industry, not all of us know, right, how these things work. So make sure the systems are very intuitive, because they can be tough to work as well too.
Thanks, Bruce. And this one will be our last question, just because we're running out of time here. But if you do have any other questions, please feel free to reply to the webinar invite that you received with any of your questions, and then we'll make sure one of our experts follow up with you. But our last question here. Should some type of air freshener be part of the cleaning regime for washrooms?
Well, you know, I mean, certainly odor counteractants are often encouraged, but you have to sort of specify and look at a lot of organizations have scent free or scent reduction policies. You want to make sure that you're operating within the paradigm of what's expected by your occupational health and safety and your facility guidelines. That being said, there are odor counteractants that don't leave really strong perfumey smell in the air, and those might be better employed. On the other hand, some places still believe that, you know, that air fresheners per se are commonly used to prevent or mask malodor. So you want to make sure that if you are using them, that you've done everything you can to comply with anybody that might have a health and safety issue and what they're looking at. Bruce, do you have anything to add to that?
I was just gonna say, you know, and very importantly too, and to back up to one of our previous slides, right? If you have odors in your washroom, go to the source. Usually it's a cleaning issue. Usually it's an issue that there is soil somewhere, right? And we need to track that down, and we need to figure it out. And we need to figure out where it is. And in many cases, there are many options available to us in different cleaning technologies to help us to easily combat that without resorting to air fresheners.
Great. Well, thank you, JJ and Bruce, for joining us. And thank you all for joining us on this webinar.